Welcome to another video in this series of learning the Nix programming language. That's part of NixOS. In the previous video, we learned about functions, and I think we got through that whole section. So if you're following along, we're looking at the official Nix tutorial on the Nix programming language. You can see the link in the descriptions of this video and follow along. The idea is we do these short videos, and if you follow along, you'll learn what I'm learning, hopefully. And if anything's unclear, you can come to the Discord that's linked in the description also and ask any questions. All right, so let's get to it. Today we're learning function libraries. In addition to built-in operators, there are two widely used libraries that together can be considered standard for the Nix language. You need to know about both to understand and navigate Nix language code. All right, so we have the built-in operators, whatever, like plus, equals, those kind of things. And then we have two other libraries that will be included in every Nix implementation. So we're supposed to skim it and familiarize ourselves with it. So built-ins, first one, also known as primitive operation or operations or primops, because it's primitives, primops. Nix comes with many functions that are built into the language. They are implemented in C++ as part of the Nix language interpreter. So whenever you use built-ins, it'll be fast, I assume. And we have a list of the built-ins here in the Nix manual. Looks like very basic. Here's some math functions, concatenating strings, getting elements out of a list. This one looks really long. Fetch closure. Fetch a store path closure from a binary cache and return the store path as a string with I think we're going to have to learn more about Nix for that. Fetch get, that's cool. Fetch tarball, fetch URL, filter. Alright, so lots of stuff. Fold, this is our kind of reduce. Alright, so we won't learn all of these, but we did skim it. Functions are available under the built-ins constant. They never told us what a constant is, but I just assume that this is always defined anytime you're programming Nix, so you can just get it top level. Built-ins to string. Let's try running that ourselves. Built-ins dot, is it to string? This probably takes in, like, let's say we do like the number 3, maybe it returns us the string version of 3. All right, makes perfect sense. And then we saw this other thing like fetch URL or something. Probably pass it a URL, like what's a URL? Boo, Google. It looks like it grabs it and puts it in that directory, in that file. That's kind of interesting. We'll see how that all works later. Import. Most built-in functions are only accessible through built-ins. A notable exception is import, which is also available at the top level. So import's very special. You don't have to type builtins.import, which is also available. I wonder if this is true. Like that means that built-ins import should work also. Let's just test that out, see if the documentation is telling us the truth. Import takes a path to a Nix file, reads it to evaluate the contained Nix expression, and returns the resulting value. Okay. If the path points to a directory, the file default.nix in that directory is used instead. I see. So it's just going to evaluate and print it out, right? Let's try that out. So here's default.nix, but we will make a new file and we will just do 1 plus 2 like the example had, and we'll write this as test dot, what is the ending? Is it nix? It's probably nix, right? Default.nix, yeah, file.nix, we call it test.nix. And then in our default.nix, we'll just import that. Import test.nix. Was that was, yeah, that was not a string. There we go. All right, I think I saved the other file too. Yep. So now let us try running that. Nix instantiate minus eval minus strict. This will load default.nix, which will then call import. Yeah, perfect. So what did we want to test? We wanted to test if import is in fact a built-in. Let's see if this works. Yep, these docs didn't lie, guys. And this can, I guess, be this. Whoops, no configure line. This can be anything. I guess this could be like a function equals. Do you remember how we do functions? We take in a value, and we then have the body. Oops, sorry, the body of that. Semicolon in, and then we do f times 10. So this should return 20, right? I hope I'm remembering how to do this. Let's try running that, just a test file. Yeah, so it returns 20. And so this will return 20. And then if I run just on default, it'll return 20 also because it imports it. Perfect. I think we understand how that works. They do echo. This is, I'm just using my editor directly to put 1 plus 2 in there, so it doesn't really matter. Detailed explanation. The preceding shell command writes the contents 1 plus 2 into the file.nix. We called ours test.nix. The above nix expression refers to the file as file.nix. Yeah, I guess they're talking about this one. Import reads the file and evaluates to the contained expression. So this means this just turns into the expression that's inside of file.nix. It is an error if the file system path does not exist. All right, so that makes perfect sense. If we try putting in something that doesn't exist, we should get a failure. Getting status of no such file or directory. So makes sense. It gives us the line number. Okay. Since a Nix file can only contain any Nix expression, imported functions can be applied to arguments immediately. All right. So if the import file returns a function, then you can apply an argument to it immediately. That is, whenever you find additional tokens after the call to import, the value it returns should be a function, and anything that follows are arguments to that function. Yeah, I think I get it. So this is saying that in our file, in our test file, let's go to our test file, we're going to return a function. All right, so here's a function. How did we have functions that took 2 arguments? Well, we'll get back to this. So this function is basically going to double a number. We write this, and then we call the function, the file that is importing this. We can get rid of this word here. And now what it's saying is we can put an argument right after this, because this whole part here, this part here is going to be replaced by that function, whatever is inside that file. So whenever it evaluates that, I think then here we'll make it 100. So we should get 200 back, right? Let's try. Yeah, functions don't need the semicolon because I'm not assigning anything. There we go, 200, we get it back. Does that make sense why I don't need the semicolon? If you don't get it, please leave a comment or join the Discord server. And then we wanted to remember, how do we write a function that takes 2 arguments? Do we remember that? That was, I think, it's good to try and fail, right? So it would look something like this, wouldn't it? This is basically saying a is a function, this is a function that takes in the body is a function that does this. So now I can do like a times b. Let's see if, so this should, now when I call it, I should be able to pass 2 numbers and it should multiply them together. Hey, I remembered how the syntax goes. I have such a bad memory for that. Let's take a look and just see how they say it. Yep, alright, great. It's just equivalent to this, right. Okay, if you don't remember it, I think it was the last video that we did it. I literally have the worst memory, like I can't remember how programming languages work. Okay. Where were we? I think we're looking at this, right? Writes the above expression reads the file if it's an error does not exist, da 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 is equivalent to this. I think, yeah, so this is basically saying the imported file is this function and then we pass it the argument. The reason they have parentheses around this is because if we didn't have parentheses, it wouldn't know that this was the end of the function and not an argument, you know? It would think it's still part of the function. All right. Now here is the second package here's the second standard library I was talking about, right? Like in the very beginning, it said, under built-ins. Where did it say the other one? You need to know about both. There are 2 widely used libraries, right? So we learned about built-ins, which is one widely used library. And then the next one is pkgs.lib. The Nix packages repository contains an attribute set called lib. Okay, so lib is an attribute set. We're learning, like, they're using names like constants and repositories that they haven't defined, which is, I don't know, something to think about. I actually made a patch to the a submission to the documentation where, remember, like in a previous video, I was confused about how some of the string interpolation was working when there's nested interpolation, and I wrote some stuff that clarified that and it was accepted, so that's cool. And actually there was another thing up in the very beginning of here that I also suggested a change in, and yeah, so it's cool. I made 2 changes so far. So if you see something that looks different, it's because the change was pushed. Let's continue. Which provides a larger number of useful functions. They are implemented in the Nix language as opposed to built-ins, which are part of the language itself. Yeah, built-ins, what was it, C or C++? Yeah, implemented in C++, so, you know, I'm sure Nix is slower, but it's a lot easier probably to write and add Nix functions in Nix, using Nix. Alright, so we know that there is an attribute set called lib, there where we can access it. The Nix packages manual lists all library functions. Let's look at those real quick. asserts, attribute sets, strings, versions, trivial, fixed points, lists. Let's take a quick look at what list has. It has singletons. This looks just like Haskell. Cool. Just a whole bunch of functions that work on lists, like fold. All right, good to know that all of these things exist here. These functions are usually accessed through pkgs.lib. Oh, this repository just means Git repository, right? Yeah, so this is just a Git repository that's separate, and I guess like it's open source so people can contribute to it if it's accepted, and a lot of library stuff comes in here. All right, got it. Makes sense. Attribute set called lib. All right, this makes a lot more sense now. Sorry, I'm all over the place today. There was an election in the US, and I think it sort of like frazzled my mind. Here's an example. Let packages equal import nix packages. And what does the two braces mean? That's an attribute set, and it's empty. So it's basically saying it's passing an empty attribute set to whatever the function is returned by import nix packages. That's what I think it means. In packages, lib strings to upper. So we're accessing a function here to upper that's under lib strings, and we're passing in this as the parameter. All right, so let's try that out. It's called nix packages. We pass in an empty attribute set, and then we try using it. I'm sure I won't remember all of that, but let's try. Okay. So I remember there was a let, and then we have to assign something like, I don't know, packages equals, and then we import, I think, nix packages, I think it is, packages or something like this, and then we pass in the empty attribute set, semicolon, because this is an assignment. Whenever you have this assignment part here, you need a semicolon. And then we do the in. And then we have to dereference this thing. I don't remember what it's called, like lib string to upper or something like that. Here is a lowercase sentence. All right, I'm sure this won't work, but let's try. Packages. All right, so let's see what it said. Lib strings to upper. Is that, and was it called to upper? Yeah, it was uppercase U. Yay! That wasn't bad. I just got strings wrong, and to upper had a capital U. That's not too bad. Let's see if the detailed explanation explains why we pass in this thing. This is a more complicated example, but by now you should be familiar with all its components. The name packages is declared to be the expression imported from the source file, from some file. Right, so it's saying that this is being replaced by whatever is inside this file, right? After it's been evaluated. That file's path is determined by the value of the lookup path nix packages, which in turn is determined by the nix path environment variable at the time this expression is evaluated. as this expression happens to be a function, it requires an argument to evaluate. And in this case, passing an empty attribute set is sufficient. So basically, it's a cheat. It's like saying, hey, we're giving you back a function, but we don't want to just give you back a function. We want to give you back the evaluated function, right? Whatever it evaluates to. So we're going to pass it something, and that'll force it to evaluate the function. Otherwise, this whole thing would just return a function, not evaluated. Not a big deal. Now that packages, now that packages is in scope of let in, its attributes can be accessed. Right, so what this means is this returned a function, right? We evaluate the function by passing in this thing, which is basically an empty parameter, and it returns us an attribute set. How we know that is because we're using the attribute set accessing whatever thing to get lib out of it. So lib is a key, is a name within that attribute set. If that doesn't make sense, go back to the attribute set video. Where are we? Okay. From the Nix packages manual, one can determine that there exists a function under libs string to upper. Instead of using this link, let us go up here again and just like see if we would have been able to find it. Lib strings, look at that. And I wish they had like just a list of functions under lib strings, right? I mean, right? Am I not seeing something? So weird. And then in here, we'll find something called to upper. Oh my, we have a lot. We're M-O-H-S. Wait, are these are not in alphabetical order. I could have easily passed it. To lower, to upper, here we go. Guys, seriously, it's not in alphabetical order and it's just like a random set of functions. Am I missing something? Like, alright. Right. For brevity, this example uses a lookup path to obtain some version of Nix packages. The function, right, lookup path is basically the fact that we passed in this thing, right? We haven't played with this much, but I assume there's just like a bunch of things that we can put like that and it would just find it. Where are we? Yet, more sophisticated software is likely to suffer from such problems. Such problems. Oh, here we go. The function toUpper is trivial enough that we can expect it not to produce different results for different versions of Nix packages. Yet, more sophisticated software is likely to suffer from such problems. A fully reproducible example would therefore look like this. So instead of giving it just that angle bracket thing, we're going to pass in like this long reference to a version specific, a version that's specific of Nix packages. And then we're grabbing, that would be Nix packages. And then we're grabbing Nix packages from it. I guess this is basically turning it into something like a file, because then you're passing in this reference. Because the fetch tarball probably returns a file. And and then we're going to import that file, right? Remember when we did fetch URL, it gave us a file back. So in fact, we can probably go up to these built-ins, and then there was probably something called like fetch file, fetch, what was it? Fetch packages? God, I've already forgot. And return the path of the unpacked tree, right? So was it tarball? Yeah, you guys are, I'm definitely losing you guys, I'm sure of it. Yeah, fetch tarball. I guess it was right. So it'll grab this. I think it said it opened it, and it'll return the file. And then so we call import on that file. It evaluates that whole file into a function. It returns a function, and then we evaluate that function by passing in an empty parameter, which returns us an attribute set. And then we, in that attribute set, we look for it, and toUpper actually references a function in that attribute set. Because remember, you can have functions in your attribute set. All right. I'm not going to do this because all we're doing is really just copying this long thing that I don't know how to get yet. Looks like they'll talk about it here, and maybe that'll be a video in the future. I'll make a little note of it. Probably not the next video, but something we'll get back to because, you know, obviously we're going to want to know what the hell this means. All right, continuing on. What you will also often see is that packages is passed as an argument to a function. By convention, one can assume that it refers to the Nix packages attribute set, which has a lib attribute. Got it. So here, what is this? This is a function. It's defining a function. And its arguments that it's taking, it's taking in an attribute set, and one of the keys of the attribute set is called packages. Let's see if we can do this. Okay, this is getting a little bit harder, right? So we're going to have a function here, and just like it said, it's going to take packages and dot dot dot, right? That's what it was. It means that it can take other things, like you can have other key values within it. And then it's going to call, we learned pkgs.lib.strings.toUpper. Let's actually pass like an extra string in here. Lower. All right. So here, this packages that we see here should be referring to this packages, and this lower should be referring to the lower over here, right? And now we want to call that function with an attribute set, packages equals Nix packages. Yeah, we don't need this. And we also, well, you will see this is an error. This is not good enough. I usually forget to put semicolons. Haha! This time I remembered. All right. I think this will not work because function f called without required argument lower, right? So this thing doesn't have a lower because f is supposed to take an attribute set that has packages and lower. So let's pass it in lower. All lowers. semicolon. I think I'm getting the hang of this, guys. Ah! What? Packages. Oh, right. Because this is not evaluated yet. Okay. We can do this. We didn't use import. So maybe what we should do is we will do packages up here. Right? And where do I want to do the import? Do I want to do it in the function call? Let's do it in the function call. Let's see if this works. So we do import. This looks kind of ugly, right? No, this can't be. I'm like totally on glue. Nix packages. We have this, and then we can function. Maybe we have to do this within the function. Here, let's do something like this. We do let. And then first we need like we need the lib. We need our p, whatever it's called. P is equal to import packages. Right, so we're gonna pass in packages, and then we import this, and we evaluate it, and then we should be able to call p.lib. Am I crazy? Does this look right? So we're assigning p to be the this is the package's attribute set that it returns basically after it evaluates this, and then here we grab p, which is the attribute set lib strings to upper, and we pass in lower. And now we can pass in just this, which is just the file location, right? And then we also need to pass in the lower string. Packages not found. Nix path. Did I type it in wrong? It's Nix packages. Did I type it in wrong? Import Nix pkgs. Why? How do I not? I'm confused. Nix REPL. That works. And I can do p packages equals Nix packages. So I must not be understanding the error message. Let's look at it again. While calling import built-in, let import while calling find file. Oh! it's using this packages. It's not working as the variable. I need to do this. I'm so bad. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's try. Yes. So my head just wasn't on straight. So what's happening is packages here turns into this file path, right? So when we saw it in Nix REPL, Nix packages, it just turns into that path, right? Slash. It's not the file content, it's just the path. And then we pass it in over here. Maybe it's confusing that I'm using like the same name over and over, so we can just like change it over here. We can say path into a file path. Import file path, right? And this will load up that file, evaluate it with which returns a function, and then we pass in that function a parameter, which is empty parameter basically, and then we get back p, which is going to give us an attribute set because this function is going to return us an attribute set. This attribute set has lib under it, strings, and the function to upper, and we pass in lower, and lower is over here, and we can just say like L here just to make sure you see like that this lower is different from this lower, and this should work. Today is not my day. In F, function F called without required argument file path. Guys, I'm just basically teaching you all the wrong things. This attribute list that we're passing into the function needs to match the names here. It's saying it needs to have a packages and it needs to have a lower. And for some reason, I just totally forgot that. I thought it was like order based for some reason for a second, that it was like, you know, a list. It's not the case at all, right? So now I just need to change this back. And here, there we go. I'm so sorry. And then what was the last thing that I wanted to do? Right, so the thing we can learn from this though is that this order doesn't matter, right? Like it doesn't matter because it's just an attribute set. It's not a list, it's just an attribute set. There we go. I got one thing right, guys. You know, I'm learning, so even if no one else is learning, this is still good for me. Yeah. All right, where are we? I actually can't remember. I think we're doing this one, right? Okay. Right, this was the one we saw. Often that packages is passed. That's why I did the whole thing, because as you can see now, we're passing packages into the function. In their function, they don't import anything, they just use it. So packages in their function is an attribute set already. Right, in our case it's not. So we could probably change this code to basically have something here where we actually do the import first. Let's see if we can do this. Packages is equal to Nix packages. This is the path, right? And then we import it. Here, let me just write path then. Packages is equal to import path. And then we pass in the arguments, and now this should be the attribute set, right? And now we pass in we're going to pass in, we don't need any of this anymore, right? Because it's already, packages is already the attribute set. And now when we call it, we pass in packages equal packages. Lower equals all lower. Does this work? Yeah, that works. Alright, so we did it. This is probably how I should have done it in the first place. We are getting the path here. We're importing the path. So that means we're reading the file and we're evaluating it. We get back the attribute set, and now we're passing it over here. Well, we're not passing it. We're making a function that takes in argument packages, which is expected to be an attribute set, not the path. And then that means we can just dereference it right away here. I think there was a way that we call inherit, wasn't it? Where we can just do this easily. I can't remember the syntax. It was like inherit packages, maybe. Yeah, look at that. This makes me think it's not really reading it. Let me make sure it's reading the file. Yeah, it's using it. Go figure. Sometimes I can remember stuff. Alright, inherit. You can look at the previous video. It just means it's pulling down from the attribute set the key packages and assigning it. So it's basically equivalent to packages equals packages. So it's not really shorter here, except that I think this can take a list of things that you want to inherit. So it just makes it easier. Yeah, inherit packages is taking the packages from up here and putting it down here into the attribute set and calling its key is called packages. I think we're at the end of this section, aren't we? I hope so, Sin. I'm sorry for torturing you. We did this. To make this function produce a result, you can write it to a file and pass it an argument through Nix instantiate. I think we've been sort of doing all of this because they've been doing like echo and all that kind of stuff, and we've been doing this all along. Arg eval file.nix. Oh. How did we not see this part? Oh, we were here, right. Okay, so I guess eval file.nix, to make this, you can write to a file. So basically saying put this inside file.nix, right? So it's a function, and then we pass it an argument packages, import Nix packages with an empty attribute set parameter. Alright. This is a way of basically, here's our function and here's us executing the function. Let's try doing that because that's what we do. Alright, so we just need like a simple function. So we'll make a new file, and we'll just make a function called it takes in an A, and oh no, this is the function here. It takes in the packages, and yeah, we'll do the same thing. Packages.lib strings to upper, and then we pass in lower. Right? Yeah, that's right. We'll call this like f.nix or function.nix. And then we need to pass in nothing. That's all we need. So we do nix instantiate --eval, and we give it the file name. So f.nix. If we do just this, it returns the function, which is fine. And then what was it? Args. And then we give it the argument name. Then how do we pass the value? Oh, it's just the space. And then the value is import Nix packages. Is that it? Unrecognized flag --arg. Oh, it's arg. Okay, so we got arg. Alright. We need to pass lower also. I wonder how... Oh, because we need two... I wonder how that works. Let's see. arg name a value. So we can just do multiple args, I think. No, but we only pass one arg. What am I talking about? Nix functions only take in one arg, so we need to pass in packages. No, it is multiple args because this arg packages is actually just a key into the attribute set that we're passing in. I think we can do this. That did not work as I expected. So we have here, we're looking at Nix instantiate, and we're passing in arg packages, which is this inside of the function. True Scotsman. I wonder, oh. So like, how do you pass multiple args? Maybe it's just a list. Like, can I just do it like this? No, that didn't work. All right, let's try to simplify this. First, we'll just get rid of lower, and we'll hard code it. And we'll get rid of this. Okay, sorry. Let's see what's it saying now. Error while selecting packages. Error value is a function while a set was expected. Isn't that what we have here? Packages. And then they call... Oh, because I didn't pass in the... Did I not? I didn't pass in... I didn't make it evaluate. Alright. So that part worked. But now... I can't seem to add a lower. I can't seem to pass a second parameter. Lower. And this should be like an expression, right? No. Undefined variable test. Ah! It's shell stuff. God. It's because when Nix gets this argument, the shell, like even though I typed in this, it doesn't see the quotation marks. That's just for the shell bash that I'm writing this in. It needs to see the quotation marks so that it knows that this is a string. So we have to add the quotation marks so it knows it's a string. We need to escape it, and you escape it with a backslash. Well, we figured it out. That's good. Let's go on. Where are we? I think we're doing this, right? Yeah, we did that. Oh my god, how much longer? Is this as painful for you guys? Oftentimes you'll see NixOS configurations and also within Nix packages that lib is passed directly. In that case, one can assume that this lib is equivalent to pkgs.lib where only packages is available. All right. Trivial or to be or not to be. So this, if we see a function where someone else is writing it or you just see it in code where you see a lib passed in, just know that it's basically referencing packages.lib. So it's just a shorter way of doing it. So in here, that would be, I know, like, it's not going to be 10 minutes now, guys, because we know this stuff now. We got this. So it should just look like this, right? And now when we call this, we import packages. Oh, God. Import packages. This returns us an attribute set. And now we want to do reference the attribute set to lib, right? I'm not sure. Oops. Wait. This is not helpful. I hate shell. All right, I don't know how to write this in here. So I'm gonna ignore this. It's shell stuff, right? But if we do this, like lib, it is gonna take forever, isn't it? We do lib, we do packages, path is equal to import nix packages, right? Is that how it was? And then we can do packages is equal to path import. Path is just this. This returns us the path of this file. And then we're going to import that file. And then we're going to call it so that it returns us the attribute set. And then we're going to libs is just equal to packages.libs. Lib. I think it's lib, right? Yeah, lib. And now we have a function. Yeah, here, let's just define this function then. F is equal to function that takes in lib and lower and basically calls lib strings to upper lower in. We're just going to call it F, pass in lib, and pass in our lower string. Let's okay. And this needs a semicolon. This needs a semicolon. And then here we don't need all of this. Yeah, we need f.nix. Syntax error, right. I don't think that's the right syntax, is it? And lower is equal to this. All right, that was painful. So our path, this returns just a path. This returns, it evaluates the path file and returns us the attribute set, which is packages. Then we just get lib out of it. And then we have a function that takes in an attribute set that has a name, key named lib and lower. Lib is going to be the lib, and lower is just a string. And here we're doing lib equals lib, just like typing inherit lib. And we pass in lower. Great, we did it. I guess this is how you learn though, right? I mean, like every time you make a mistake, you try to learn stuff. I wish I knew how I can't seem to make this one line. I wanted to just kind of do this. But let's see if it works better here. No, it didn't like that. Oh, wait. Attribute lib is missing. So this is an attribute set. So shouldn't I be able to say, okay, do all of this and then call lib? Oh yeah, okay. So what I did in the shell should have worked. I just don't have the right magic for the syntax, I think. The escapes that are necessary for shell. Alright, so this means here it's saying like do this first, which will return us the attribute set, and then in that attribute set we're just grabbing lib from it. Yeah. Alright. Feels like we went to war. Okay, where were we? Did we do this? To make this function produce a result, you can write it to a file and pass an argument. This is just with the lib stuff, right? Oh, here they do it! They freaking do it. It's just that I needed like single quotes or something here. Alright. Well, do we have the energy for it? No, I don't think we have the energy for it. But we know it's possible. Sometimes both packages and lib are passed as arguments. In that case, one can assume pkgs.lib and lib to be equivalent. Makes sense. This is done to improve readability by avoiding repeated use of packages.lib. Alright, great. So packages must have other things than just lib. So, you know, sometimes it's useful to pass both. Passing lib obviously isn't necessary because you can get it from packages, but it's just maybe so oftenly used that you don't want to type packages.lib over and over again. For historical reasons, some of the functions in packages.lib are equivalent to built-ins of the same name. Well, that's interesting. We don't know which ones. That's not that important. Let's end it here. Next time we'll talk about impurities. What a fun name. It sounds like dirty, like you shouldn't be doing it. It's very judgy and opinionated. Alright, we'll leave it here. If you have any questions or you want to show your example of actually implementing this thing that I have no energy to do right now, please join the Discord or show it in the comments. Please like the video if this wasn't too painful, and let me know how you enjoyed it in the comments. Thank you. Bye.